Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Vienna Live with Simeon Morrow and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and/or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which I'll now place in the chat room. For better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. This show thrives on participant contributions, and all participants are encouraged to actively participate in this webinar by asking questions and making comments. To do so, please either write in the chat room, raise your hand, or turn on your microphone to say hi, and I will be delighted to include your perspective in the conversation. Tonight, our featured guests are saxophonists Andrea Mochi, Francesco Ronzio, Mattia Quirico, and Salvatore Castellano, who perform as the Vagues Saxophone Quartet. Also joining us tonight is Dr. Lino Rivera, Professor of Music at St. Mary's College of California. In order to best express himself, Mattia Quirico will be speaking in Italian, for which I will provide a simultaneous translation. Lovely. Wow. Welcome, Andrea.
Welcome. Good evening, Simon, and good evening, everybody.
So, Andrea, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the Vagues Saxophone Quartet?
Of course. I'm a saxophone player from Sardinia. My city is called Sassari. I'm 36 years old. And when I was 24, I moved to Milan to study with a very famous virtuoso that teaches there, that is Mario Marzi, a saxophone player in Teatro La Scala. And then I moved my life in Milan. I studied also chamber music, conducting, orchestral conducting, a bit jazz and composition. Before I was playing with in another project with an old quartet, but in 2015 we splitted, and I founded this new project that has the name of the duo with Megumi Nakanomori on piano. With I played and I recorded also a CD in 2015.
Okay.
The quartet born in the sign of contemporary music. Our first concept was for the Contemporary Music Festival of Milan, where we performed Xenakis, Grisé, the Japanese Tanada, and the world premiere of Kick by Gabriele Cosmi, a young composer from Sardinia also. But I met him in Milan the first time. When I founded the quartet, I looked around for the best saxophone player I could find, and so I asked to Francesco, that I met in many competitions, Mattia, that played with me already sometimes, and Salvatore, that was a young talent. Now he is still young, but a little bit less, but still a talent.
Okay.
I asked to them to do this project together, and the idea of this project is based for the love of playing every kind of beautiful music. What I mean is that not every music is beautiful, in particular in the new music area. But when the music is beautiful, you enjoy to find a way in your interpretation to make it work. I don't know if it's right.
Okay, yes, it does. I'd like to bring in Francesco, please. Hi, Francesco.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So Andrea told us really many things. So I don't have so many things to say. We met in Milan together. We were studying, me, Mattia, and Salvatore, with the same famous saxophonist that Andrea told, Mario Marzi. And there we start playing together. First concert, as he said, was for Milano Musica Festival. And after, we decided to continue and also start making other type of music, not only contemporary music. And then we started a new project. We also collaborate with other instruments. For example, recently with drums, or we played many times in Germany with organ. So this project started as an ensemble where you can change instrument, not only saxophone quartet in the standard form, soprano, alto, tenor, and baritone, but we played many times for soprano. We played recently Giorgionetti with 3 tenor, and so it's really many combination that we can find. Personally, some words to describe me is I started studying in Valtellina, where I was born, and after I moved to Milan. Now I live in Bergamo, where I teach already many years in the Liceo Musicale with very well, Roberto Genova was my colleague, and some experience really important was on theater in Florence, where I won the audition in Teatro del Maggio Musicale, and so I played also sometimes there many really good work of music that sometimes when you play really important music, it changes you, and it's like a path that where you grow up a little bit step by step each time.
Fantastic. So before I bring in Mattia and Salvatore, I'd like us to take a look at another recording of theirs. So here it is. Fantastic. So, Mattia, I'd like to welcome you. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and then maybe about playing with this ensemble.
Buonasera a tutti, buonasera Simone.
Good evening to everybody.
Io sono Mattia Quirico e sono il sassofono tenore quando suono soltanto quello di questo ensemble.
So normally I'm playing tenor saxophone in this ensemble.
Ho iniziato a studiare musica quando avevo 9 anni a Caravaggio, nel paese dove sono nato e cresciuto, nella scuola della banda.
So when I was 9, I started playing saxophone in Caravaggio, where I come from, and I started playing in the band.
E quando ho compiuto 17 anni ho cominciato lo studio del saxofono in conservatorio, dove ho conosciuto tra gli altri i miei attuali colleghi di formazione.
So when I was 17, then I met the other colleagues at the Milan Conservatory.
In questo momento, oltre all'attività del quartetto, sono direttore musicale della banda dove ho incominciato a suonare.
And so among other activities, I'm now director of that band that I started playing in when I was 9 years old.
E uno dei miei obiettivi è quello di mantenere queste attività locali intatte in modo da poter continuare e permettere anche ad altri ragazzi di fare il percorso che ho fatto anch'io.
And so one of my important objectives is to keep opening these opportunities for other people like I had, so that they can follow in the footsteps that I was privileged to take. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mattia. And I would like, last but not least, to bring in Salvatore. Hi, Salvatore.
Hello, Simon. Hello, everybody. It's very nice to be here.
Salvatore, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Can I start? Sure. So I'm Salvatore Castellano. I'm the bartonist of Vagues Saxophone Quartet. I'm 26 years old. I come from Sicily. It's a little town in the center of the island. I met the guys in 2016, as Andrea said, so we play since then. I stayed in Sicily in my hometown until I was 19, then I moved to Milan, where I studied with the same teacher as all the guys, Mario Marzi. Then I started also in Lyon, France. I just graduated from School of Music in Basel, in Switzerland, with Marcus Pais. And now I came back this year my hometown where I'm teaching here, the local kids. It's actually great because this let me being a little bit between global and local, so I can stay with the guys and my other ensemble and play all the board. But also being here is very significant to me, because I can say something to the next generation and help them grow a little bit with the saxophone.
Fantastic. So you often travel to meet each other. You're not all in the same place. You're actually very far apart.
Actually, I think I've always been the one that has been far apart from the others, because when the others were staying in Milan, I moved to Lyon, then I moved to Basel. Now I'm in Sicily, so I'm literally, I think, the one that is traveling the more than the others.
Fantastic.
So because our base is actually in Milan, Caravaggio. So.
Okay, fantastic. So Andrea, I'd like to turn it over to you now, because I believe you're going to tell us a little bit about artistic research, about exactly how the saxophone and the repertoire came about in the 19th century, and how the Vagues Saxophone Quartet is an extension of that.
Yes. What I think is that we are working in the line of the tradition. I mean, saxophone born around 1841. In the imagination of the inventor, it had to be a kind of mix of the best features of other instruments. The conicity, like oboe, that gives to the saxophone a big sound. The single reed like the clarinet that makes the saxophone able to play very pianissimo. And also a kind of mechanic that makes the saxophone able to play very, very fast, also in big intervals. In the beginning, the idea of the inventor was just to ask to the most famous composers of his era to write some solo for saxophone. For example, in orchestra, there is a very famous solo that is from Arlésienne of Bizet, the Intermezzo, which has also the same melody of Miserere. It's the same music, but with the words in that case. After the saxophone entered in the official ensemble of the military band of France, and then in the end of the 19th century was going to be a bit abandoned because composers stopped to write for saxophone when the inventor died. But because the saxophone entered in the wind band ensemble, it arrived in America, and there a rich woman called Elizabeth Hall, which was also I think founder of Boston Orchestra. She asked to the most famous French composer of the beginning of the 20th century to write concertos for saxophone. So in that period, about 20 or a bit less works have been written for saxophone. There is also a famous Rhapsody of Debussy, for example. After this period, around the 30s, came the first virtuosos of saxophone. One was German, Sigurd Rascher, that moved then in America, and the other that is we call him patron, the father of our school in Italy and in France, was Marcel Mule. There was also another American called Cecil Leeson, that is the saxophone player that had many pieces written for him. The student of the most famous student of Marcel Mule that is, because he's still alive, Jean-Marie Londex, is the first that began to study other sounds of saxophone, not only a traditional way to play saxophone, but he started to research which is the voice, the real voice of saxophone. And after him, many composers and players did this kind of research until the last for us that I think we can agree is Marcus Weiss, that worked together with an Italian composer called Giorgio Netti, and they in particular they studied the complex sounds of saxophone. Then I can show you also some example later.
And Andrea, to be clear, so the music that we heard before, this was kind of a more contemporary music, lots of sounds of the keys hitting the metal, lots of new sounds. So why is it that an instrument like the clarinet, for instance, was never really exploring these new kind of sounds? Like you said, you're looking for an authentic sound of the saxophone. Why is it that the saxophone hasn't really found its voice?
I think because the first goal of composers that were using saxophone was in orchestra, for example, was to make the listener to remember a kind of jazzy sound. And in jazz or tango, in this extra, how is extra called? In non-classic music, in popular music, is not played like this. What other? In that piece we heard we were using, for example, slap tongue. That is not a classical technique that composers ask in orchestra normally. Slap tongue is a particularly mood of using the tongue. I don't know, maybe Salvo can show some
Sure, I just wanted to add, in order to answering Simon's question, there is also, I think, let's say something that is related to the shape of the body of the instrument. So you were questioning us about why not the clarinets and why the saxophone has taken this role as the instruments of the new century, the new millennium, let's say. I believe it's also related to the physics of the instruments. Let's not forget that saxophone is really a miracle of the 19th century. That's the shape of the conical shape of the oboe. It has the keys of the flutes. It has the reed of the clarinet, the brass from the trumpet, let's say, and it plays like the human voice. So basically, what I've been hearing, for example, talking with Marcus or with Giorgio sometimes, is that if you take, for example, an oboe or a clarinet, which are less conical or cylindrical, you can't have the same multiphonics the saxophone, but not only in terms of notes, but also in terms of color. So, for example, I can just take my saxophone. We have, let's say, different kind of multiphonics in terms of colors. For example, the one that you hear always are really, let's say, focused, they're aggressive. For example, this. But saxophone, this can be played by clarinet very well, by oboe all the time, by bassoon the same. But I think there are a lot of multiphonics or complex sounds, as we call them today, that are more really beautiful. For example, as you can hear, I hope you are hearing.
Fantastic. So you're really playing two different notes at the same time. Beautiful.
Yeah. And actually, the thing that I like the most is that even when the sound is really complex, for example, you can actually start from one of the partials and open it to the infinite partial, right? And back to one of the partials. So that's something that I realize a lot of composers like about the instruments, and also all the kind of articulation when it's basically infinite.
Fantastic. So let's go, let's watch one video of an arrangement. This is a Scarlatti video, and let's see what this sounds like. Fantastic. So Salvatore, yeah, it's clear now. I understand why you travel so far to meet each other. You play just fantastic together. So I'd like to continue with Francesco, please. Francesco, tell us a little bit about this. I believe it's a transcription that was made for Saxophone Quartet. So this is a composer, Scarlatti, known for, I believe it's probably the father, Alessandro Scarlatti, maybe for piano, I'm not sure.
No, Domenico, it's Domenico.
So the son. Tell us.
Yeah, this is a part of a big project made by Sciarrino, Salvatore Sciarrino, that make pagine and canzoniere from Scarlatti. So it's like a program, concerto program, where he put from early music like Gesualdo da Venosa, and there also something from Bach, Kyrie and Fuga, 3 sonata of Scarlatti. So a combination of different kind of music in a new way for instrument, this time saxophone. So it's like to take sometimes a piece of music that is made for a keyboard like this one, and give a new life played by 4 instruments that it's like for characters, for a soloist that make dialogues and speak together. So it's really different from Scarlatti played by keyboard, of course, by piano or by harpsichord or this way. And also there's early music, Scarlatti, Bach, and also something from Gershwin and Cole Porter. So it's a mix. It's really a concerto program, a mix between early music, Baroque, and modern music and saxophone music. Actually, Gershwin is really more for saxophone than Scarlatti, of course.
Fantastic. So please, let's continue then with this, Andrea, with the development of the saxophone, about the sound, about this this music that we have. We're going to talk about your upcoming, your newly released recording in a moment, but tell us about this when you're playing Glazunov, Scarlatti, you're playing composers who've already written music for a different instrument that perhaps never even imagined, in Scarlatti's case, that their music would be played on this instrument. Tell us some more about that and how that is the work of the Vagues Saxophone Quartet.
I think when music is beautiful, it happens that everybody wants to play it also with other instruments. No? In our work, we compared when we were students. Now we are discovering the saxophone under the lens of each composer. What I mean is every music needs a different sound. Of course, it's always saxophone, but the music has its own voice. For example, in the beginning, the saxophone, there were not saxophone players because the saxophone was not invented. So the first player of saxophone were clarinet players. And the way of playing saxophone was really similar to clarinet. So without vibrato, straight sound. Maybe Salvo can play some passage without vibrato of ancient music.
So I would like to add some vibrato.
Then arrived a saxophone player that was before amateur of violin, was our patron Marcel Mule, that was used to vibrato, no? Playing and studying always violin. So he invented a technique that we do with our jaw, yes, with this kind of movement, but very small, that makes the saxophone to play vibrato. E forse mettiti un po' più lontano dal microfono.
Salvatore, if I may say yes, please make sure that the original sound is on, if possible. Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Very nice.
I
Thank
don't know
you.
if you catch it or we can do again. Okay, so in this kind of with this kind of a technique, we could start to play every lyrical pieces. So with saxophone, I don't know, we play also the César Franck sonata for violin, no? But because we can play vibrato, so it works. A famous composer that we also recorded in our first discographic work, that is Alexander Glazunov, used the saxophone in a way very expressive, like a cello, and cello also use vibrato. So in this solo, in this concerto, we can use this kind of technique. In other music, for example, if we play a kind of jazz music, in jazz music there is the double bass that plays pizzicato and also slappy sounds. And we also invented a kind of not we saxophone players invented a kind of articulation that we call slap tongue. Vai Salvo. Okay, no, it's made without... it's without air, it's just open.
Sorry.
And we can do many variations of this. We can play open slap tongue, that is a kind of explosion. Okay, in this way you don't recognize the pitch like before, but you hear. Or we can play the attack of the sound with left tongue and then normal sound. It sounds like a percussion instrument, no, or mixed string with percussion. Okay. In other music, for example, in contemporary music or in very traditional ancient popular music, music requires to play quarter tones. Saxophone is not built to play these quarter tones, but because we can manipulate the mechanic, we can play every quarter tones, also and also less. Maybe Salvo can show some little passage with quarter tones.
Yeah, I can play a kind of quarter tone scale. It sounds very weird. Some composers actually like it.
Yes, this is the way how saxophone player we can kill every
how to play wrong
classical music. Other beautiful techniques are altissimo. That the first that used this technique is Sigurd Rascher. Is a kind of manipulation of harmonics. So starting from 2 octaves and half, we can play 4 octaves. Play some altissimo. Okay, so this is the tenor and was playing higher than a soprano, for example, now, no? The instrument more has a low voice, more is rich of harmonics, and can reach so higher pitches. For example, we can, in some composer in particular, when we play transcriptions, for example, from flute or violin or contemporary music, the music needs to have a particularly tonguing technique that is called double tonguing, that is used for flute or for violin when they do the double bowing. I don't know so Salvo can show us this kind of articulation. Okay, then we talked already about complex sounds. Other things, I don't know, we will discover with the next piece we are going to study. Every piece we will
Fantastic.
learn something more.
So Andrea, and thank you very much, Salvatore. I'm sorry that the internet connection is not so good, so we don't get everything, the complete beauty of what you're playing. Thank you so much for the examples.
Sorry.
So I want to just ask before we look at our last video of the evening, Andrea, you said, okay, not all music is beautiful. We only do beautiful music. So many of the things that Salvatore, he was demonstrating for us, many people would say that's not beautiful. Tell us, what is it exactly then with your, what is your definition of beautiful music?
Mine?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
What I think is when something is beautiful can survive the times. Is beautiful what I like also philosophy, so it's the wrong question. Is beautiful what is very like its idea. What looks like is not beautiful. It has to be authentic. So, for example, we really enjoy to play harmonic music. We play with our tuning. We feel the tensions of the sounds. It's a kind of religion in that kind of music. You have to believe that the seventh has to go to the eighth. No,
So really the classical music with this classical
yeah, the sensible
chords and the voice leading.
Yes. Then also there is in that music, for example, when we play Glazunov, we feel a lot this. In harmonic music, there is a kind of connection with the nature, because when we build a chord, we have to play every sound like the harmonics of the bass. And if you play temperato, like the piano doesn't sound good. In the opposite way, when we play very like the nature, the sound becomes richer and bigger. It's a kind of miracle when you play in tune with these tensions. This is
and so for the music like that is that many people say is noise, what you don't consider that to be the case?
Is noise if you put it in an ambient where it's not good, that sound. If that sound is not in good company, but there are, because music is a kind of language, you can build some sentence also using noises and giving sense. I don't know, in rhythm or in some similarity between sounds. There are many ways. What we feel often is after the newest piece that is written, that we can't invent anything new, but it's not true. we find always the way to let born some new language. It's
Okay.
the human nature, I
Fantastic.
think.
So let's take a listen to their new recording that has just been let out, just been released. Here it is. Fantastic. So quickly, we have some applause. So Mattia, I'd like to ask you, what is your favorite part of this new album?
Bella domanda.
So that's a great
Dunque,
question.
Personalmente la mia parte preferita sono le variazioni di Glasno, le variazioni sul tema di Glasno.
So personally, my favorite part are the variations by Glassino.
Perché, come diceva prima Andrea, sono le parti in cui c'è la ricerca armonica più specifica e profonda.
So like Andrea was talking about before, there's really this harmonic searching, the harmonic language is really working itself out, and we got to do that as a quartet.
E dove si nota come compositore, partendo da un materiale tematico anche piuttosto semplice, sviluppa delle idee molto interessanti e molto saxofonistiche dal punto di vista compositivo.
And so there's a lot of the composer is able to take some thematic material and really work it out in a way that just works so well on the saxophone. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Mattia. So we just have quickly a question from Professor Lino Rivera of St. Mary's College of California. Hi, Lino.
Hello, everybody. I just have a very quick question with regards to the name of your quartet and how do you pronounce that? Because I would pronounce it as Vagues. And what is the meaning of it and how did you come up with that? Because a name signifies a lot and tells a lot about you.
You hear me? Yes. The meaning of the name is waves. in French. I used this name when I was playing with my piano player, Megumi Nakanamori, and we were playing in French music like Debussy and Florent Schmitt, that has this kind of waves, so I had this idea, and it's also a beautiful name because wave is the sound works in waves. Wave is a wave of expression, of sensibility, of has a lot of meanings. So the pronunciation is vague.
Okay, grazie, Andrea. But why in French? Why not onda, as in Italiano?
No, because yes, because it's typical of French music. This kind of feeling in music, I think. Like in Debussy or Ravel, there is Jeu d'eau, games of water. No?
Yes,
it's typical from the French music, or we found there.
Yes, I understand, but you know, you are Italians, but why not not onda, which is the Italian word for the wave?
Because the classical saxophone is a French tradition, so it was also a way to say we are saxophone player, not jazz player, and we are in this kind of French tradition that started from adult sax, and then all those French players. Is full of meanings, not only for the word, but also, yes, for the language.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask quickly, Francesco. So Francesco, what's coming up next for the Vagues Saxophone Quartet? And
I think we must decide now what is the next project we will going to record. So we have some projects that are already ready to be recorded, as the Glason of Francais and the Gauss. So we have just to choose now. So we have some concert competition to do in this recent future, and after I think we will start to build up and record another project, maybe contemporary music. We must just find some pieces to close the project, or maybe I don't know, the project with the organ player, or maybe percussion. We started working also in this way, in this repertory.
Okay, so let's see how we can get the album. First of all, there it is, Da Vinci edition, and you can buy it here. Just click add to cart. There it is, their entire album. So I will put that in the I'll put that in the chat room right now. There it is. And how to stay in touch with the Vagues Quartet. It's very easy, vaguesquartet.com. And Salvatore, we can reach out to you by clicking on Contatti, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there it is, email info@vaguesquartet. So people, and even a phone number.
There.
So people can reach out to you with any questions about what's coming up, or the history of the saxophone. Fantastic. Okay, so very good. Thank you so very much to the Vagues Saxophone Quartet, to Andrea Mochi, to Francesco Oronzio, Mattia Quirico, and Salvatore Castellano.
Thank you, Simon, for this.
So
thanks a lot.
Let's take a look at what's coming up next week. We have Michael Verba, Post-War Musical Vienna. Today, Vienna is widely considered the center of European classical music scene, but the city was decimated during World War II, and from one day to the next, found itself occupied by both Cold War belligerents. What were those days like, and is it true that music was central to the city's post-war restoration? Nobody knows that story better than Michael Verba, emeritus musician of the Vienna Philharmonic. His father, Erich, a piano accompanist and music critic, was a key figure in the musical Vienna of those years. Erich Verba's now mythical concerts and recitals took place with musicians the likes of Irmgard Seyfried, Walter Berry, Willy Boskowski, Wolfgang Schneiderhan, and Christa Ludwig. Come welcome Michael Verba to our show, and he will tell us a very special story about the music that remade Vienna. As always, all information about upcoming shows can be found at www.simeonmoro.com. There we have in the chat room, grazie tutti, grazie, bravissimi. So once again, thank you so very much to the Vagues Saxophone Quartet. Thank you to Professor Lino Rivera. Thank you to Agnieszka Rivole for support of this show. Most of all, thanks to you, our participants who make it all worthwhile. From Bergamo, Italy, Lyon, France, and San Francisco, California, goodbye, and see you next Wednesday.